Thanks for staying with us. He's one of the founding partners of Fetchstone and Grace. He's the managing partner of the firm and currently leads its dispute resolution and banking and finance group. He's renowned for the depth of his knowledge in law and has, over the course of his career, distinguished himself in a string of notable cases. Welcome with us, Mr. Osaro Eghobamiem. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Before you came on, we were talking about Nigerians' religiosity, especially because when they travel abroad or go to different countries, it changes. You know, I mean, I told them that I'm a perfect example. I mean, when I was here, Bible was back to back. You know, fasting and prayer, gym. And suddenly, I went there. First of all, there was no church in sight. My kind of church wasn't in sight. I started looking for Nigerian churches. I didn't find that for a while back then. You know, and things. My prayer points changed. You know. It wasn't that, Father, Lord Almighty, give me this, give me that. It was more like, okay, I need direction. What should I do? So what do you think? Are we overly religious here in Nigeria? Or do you think it's the only way that we can actually sustain the hope that we desperately seek to have?
Well, I think I will. Thank you again for having me. And I would answer that question by introducing a practical example or joke that my father shared with me. My father is also a lawyer. Was a senior advocate. He's passed on now. Last year, as he would normally travel with all my nephews, my nieces, you know, he goes in a crowd when he's going abroad. And there were 9 of them traveling. And in Dubai, he suffered a heart attack. And within 7 minutes, paramedics and doctors were there, and they revived him. And, of course, illness took a different course later, but he went back to Dubai. When he woke up, my sister-in-law was telling me, because they revived him even before he got to the hospital. They started working on him, and they had an ambulance. And he looked around, and he saw Emiratis, and my father is very witty. He said to them, do you know my country? He's just woken up from a heart attack. And they said, yes. He said, my country is Nigeria. He said, God has left our country. Wow. He said, why? He said, because if I call no matter the hospital, nobody will come and revive me in 7 minutes. He said, God is here, not there.
Yes.
Now, that meant a lot. Wow. What it meant was that basically, it's very deep.
Yes.
That whilst here, we don't do the right thing. My father was very practical, very disciplined. And if we don't do the right thing, we call upon God. There's no way to work. You haven't created the room for God to intervene. So I think in Nigeria, we focus a lot on religion. So it's worship without sacrifice. That's what it is. And that's one of the greatest sins in as far as
I have to do a follow-up with this, but do you believe that ancestral demons, I mean, we all pray about it because they tell us, because somebody in the back somewhere did something that is affecting us today. We pray these things because we don't want our children to suffer from this thing that we are suffering from. Are you saying that it is wrong for us to pray against ancestral demons?
We're misguided.
Simple.
And if you think about it, there are certain principles that are necessary for success. So my mother is very prayerful.
Okay.
My dad is very interesting. So we have a very interesting debates in the house. And if I'm traveling, there must be a prayer session. And my dad must intervene and say, you know, be careful because you miss your flight. When she starts, she doesn't stop. If I'm traveling from Cambridge, Kent to London, there's no prayer. I get on the tube and I get where I'm going to. But if I'm traveling from Lagos to Benin, there's a lot of prayer. And that's because the ground is unsafe. So you can see why I was listening to your discussion earlier, why the prayers are more intense here, because we haven't done the right things.
Yes.
And we're praying, that prayer will not solve it because it's a matter of discipline application, which we have not done, so we have insecurity.
You know, this reminds me of something that happened to me 2 years ago. I went to London to get a surgery. And the day before, I was a bit, anxious about it. The doctor said to me, a Nigerian doctor who's lived there, he says, you're safer having this surgery than traveling from Lagos to Ibadan.
Correct.
I'm like, whoa. So, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're supposed to talk about leadership, but we just wanted to hear your initial thoughts on that. I mean, but...
Let me jump in by saying that, so we have a problem of leadership. and I always go back to the basics, that how can we sort out our leadership when we haven't sorted out ourselves? Because we give birth to the leaders of tomorrow. What are some of the things that we can start doing now as young people who are growing if we ever aspire to have a Nigeria that has good leadership?
Leadership is a complex subject, subtle, but leadership is everything. So where do you start from? I mean, the tenets that you require to be a good leader is often misunderstood. It is a matter of integrity, it's a matter of discipline, and it's a matter of how do you impact on third parties. It is not about you. You're a servant, and a servant, now they say servant leader in Nigeria. It is about how you can influence other people. So I talk about the leader without a title. In Nigeria, you don't have a leader without a title. You have leaders who are seeking title, and they wear a crown, and then they assume they are leaders. But a true leader is difficult to find. I have a few people who inspire me a lot. My father is one of them. I'll talk about a few before we end. And that's because he was extremely time conscious. He was extremely disciplined, and he spoke truth to power. I will share a few of it to you, and you'll understand. Once the governor of Lagos State, the governor of Edo State came in, and he just finished his election. And he walked into a church service. My father was, and you make a mistake when you call my father to come and speak, because he will speak truth to power. And Shimole came in late. He'd always complained to me that there cannot be any true leader who does not keep to time. Time is a language. So Oshimole saw him and hid behind anyway on purpose so that my dad would not embarrass him. And my dad did the right thing without saying a word. And then the organizer rushed to him. Why didn't you recognize? And he said he was here late. It's almost at the end of the occasion. I don't think we should disrupt it. And they insisted. And my father went to the podium and said, Oshimole is here. He's always late for occasions, and he's come late again. Welcome, Mr. Oshimole. I don't think Oshimole was very happy with that. But that's the kind of thing we're talking about. True leadership is different from being a politician. There's a big difference. We're looking for leadership in politicians. We're not looking for politicians to go into leadership positions. Right? So I think if we find anyone who is in politics, who is a true leader, we must do what we can do to support them, because politicians, leaders, do not look for popular votes. They look for vision. They look for purpose, whereas politicians are looking for votes. There's a big difference.
There's something I always disagree. If you look at the history of this country, well, there was a time when it was the popular opinion among the leaders to have vision. It was the people who, at the time, within regions,
Almost a giving.
Developed their regions with a vision that, okay, this is the strength of this area, this is the strength of the West, this is, and they existed. We can still see, we still do mark every Nationalist Day, remembering these people. And at some point, I'm from Auchi, and funnily, when we have not put anything on the roads, just, we refuse to build the road, somebody then comes and says, see, they are waiting for you on that road. Whenever a person died those days in my place, they'll say they waited for him on the road. There's a way they mourn differently when the corpse of that person is brought home to be buried. And I know my parents used to just, echo it. And I feel like, for now, I've been driving myself for 7 years. I don't feel comfortable when I'm being driven. I believe that somebody can be careless. But if you see my car is being bashed by other drivers, I hardly drive into an accident. So if you do your own part in every development, things will go naturally. If you have a clear vision, things will happen naturally. But we've made the excuse of religion for the lapses of a certain generation of leaders that came in. They sold religion as the excuse. They would go to the mosque, they would come and enlist the imam's help to win elections. And so they kept selling religion. How do we get our people to leave that fold and still believe in God? Because now if you tell them you don't want them to believe in God, so believe in God. But these are the things that are supposed to be a given. These are the things that these leaders should be telling you.
Like a mindset change.
A strong shift, because I don't believe in village people. I love my village people. You can't be wrinkled because of me and be a witch. No. It's not possible. You wrinkle because of age. So how do we change that mindset to the kind of mindset where I am? That is not popular.
All right, let me go on a quick break, then I'll let you answer that. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So before the break, Nima asked a question, and I know you're ready. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I think Nima's question relates to how come we have changed our orientation, coming from the old, where we used to have people like Sir Ahmadu Bello. Those who lived with him would tell you the level of integrity that he had. And then when we move forward, you had Babangida, which I will talk about briefly. And then you now move here, you have our president, and then you have the vice president. And you see general Nigerians. So when we talk about leadership, we focused on national leadership. But if you talk about orientation, leadership starts from the community, starts from the primary schools, it starts from the kindergartens. You must begin to teach people the concept of leadership. Now, did our forefathers do enough to teach us the concept of leadership? And then there was the military interagram. The point is this. If you don't start teaching a concept very early. So I talked about not having politicians who are leaders because they've not gone through any school. How are you going to get true leaders? Because it's a complex subject. So my father, I have a lot of respect for my father. So what I say of him indoors is what people say of him outside. So he's the one person who will tell a judge, I'm sorry you were late. Of course, he combined it with age. But when he was much younger, when a judge was corrupt, who was then the brother of the sitting Oba of Benin, my father wrote a petition and followed it through. And Justice Akenzo was removed. My father always said that necessity is not the mother of invention. Necessity is failing to accept things the way they are. And many of us have failed, either as followers, we have not called our leaders to account. Now, we had a program last year. We were celebrating my dad, and we did something on leadership. Some of the qualities that my brothers and I really gained from my father. And one of the things we said, my father didn't leave a lot of things for us. He was fairly comfortable, but he left a lot of things in us that helps us to do what we're doing today. Babangida was celebrated last 3 months. It was 80, and it was a concept of leadership. And I accuse you, journalists, because no one took him to town. What do you stand for?
We did.
Yeah.
The celebration is good, but the celebration should do one of two things. Either it extols his strong leadership strengths, or exposes where he was weak and ask him what he will tell the future generation. If you did, we didn't see it on television. So that accountability is not there. So national orientation goes back to the very basics. When I was much younger, if I go to parties, you had those who were dancing. Then you had those who were good at logic and maths. They won prizes. Then you had those who could spell. So across the board, you were seeking leadership in different respects. Academia, dancing, entertainment. Today, it's only dancing and entertainment.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
When I tried to introduce it to my children when they were parties, you can just imagine the reaction I got from both the kids and their parents. But I insisted when my kids were much younger.
Yeah. Okay, so, see, I wrote on my paper, one leader, because here at this table, when we discuss about leadership and the way forward, many of the ladies tend to say, we just need one person, like a one savior to come and change the country. And I usually disagree with that. I feel that I feel that one person will be overwhelmed because we have a system where you have to seek everyone's input before you can even go forward. So what do we do? I think what I'm trying to ask now is for children, where do we start with them? What are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things put in our curriculum or at play or at church that we start to teach them so that tomorrow we'll have many saviors that we can pull from?
So, you've taken me back to the issue of leadership at the national level, one leader. You're absolutely correct. You need a leader who will come with many other people who share the same values. Yeah. But that one person must share a value. I mean, it must be somebody who provokes sufficient level of admiration and confidence amongst the people around him. And then others will then take a cue. And then they occupy sensitive positions. Nigeria, democracy doesn't necessarily produce the best leader. What democracy does is to produce a popular leader. So politicians will tell you a story. They make promises. But what leadership requires is not promises, but purpose. What is your purpose? I said to you that I was influenced by quite a number of people. And I will tell you, I've been influenced by my father greatly. As a young man, I'm influenced by Yemi Oshibajo. Now, I disclose as a friend, and I pray every day that one day he should rule this country. Now, that is because politicians are not going to vote for a man with a purpose. They are going to vote for someone who is popular. So those of us who believe in what we're doing and believe in values, and those values must disseminate in the whole country, we have to support someone like that. I also believe in law, Mr. Shofunde, who was my boss. Now, interestingly, we had Shofunde, Mr. Ogunigbe, Mr. Belgore, Mr. Sakwe, and then Fashola was also there. And you could see the sort of values that we're talking about. Interestingly, I'll just tell you a short story. When Fashola decided to run for governorship, he called me, and I said to him, either you've stolen enough money to go into politics, or you're going there to steal. I tell truth to power. So those who tolerate me in power, you know they are good people. If they, most of them don't.
See, you keep referring to your dad, because I remember that my father, when he was the president of the NBA, they had an event where they out of courtesy, invited the governor, the military governor. And he told them he didn't tell them to invite the governor of Lagos State. Yes. That was Rajat Razaki. And he told them they should return the invitation. In fact, he specifically told his assistant to go back and tell the governor that, please, collect our... We have been disinvited. We didn't invite you for this event. But we've seen people like that, activists like that. Where has it gotten us? There's a lot of screaming. I mean, as much as I love my father, I know what he stood for. And I like the fact that, yes, I have his name. But today, you're thinking to yourself, they're active, yes, but how activism back then had a lot of weight. But today, if you're active, you go and do protest. They have a meeting and everybody goes home. There is watered down. So where is the essence of active? Where do we get the leaders who can actually change, not just mindset, cause some kind of a revolution for change? We don't see that anymore.
Sorry, I took your first name.
My father's name was Akabashoro.
Oh, yes. Wow. It's a pleasure to be sitting next to you. He's a man we had a lot of respect for. And then he influenced many of us in different ways. Some people say that he's the one president of the bar that we had, and we're hoping that we'll see many more. Your question really is, how do we get to that point where we're able to disseminate the values that really are necessary for you to have a true leader? It takes everyone. Unfortunately, we don't celebrate the right things in Nigeria.
No, we don't.
So where people do things that are altruistic, and if you go elsewhere, people are celebrating those things, we don't. My father, again, always cracks a joke. He said, anywhere they're not sharing money, Nigerians are not excited. So if you come and discuss principles and policies and purpose, you will find out that, yes, it's quite boring. And those who will come, and they usually will come on time. So I always say to people in power, kindly look at your local association, your local community that helps the neighborhood watch. I live in a very interesting place where I'm a strong member of my neighborhood watch. And I go around knocking doors to tell people to come and help clean the gutters. When we moved into Lekki, there were no roads, so we built it ourselves. Now, if I knock on your door, some people don't even come out. They talk to you from upstairs. I'm going around with the gate men and the drivers and everybody. And, I make a small party, and anyway, we're working for the community. And I see people who will not even open their gates, but almost insult you. And the next day, I hear the announcement on radio or television. This person is heading one commission. This person is a minister. I live in Lekki Phase 1. If you cannot give a hand in your little community, nobody should entrust you with government assets. So you must go straight to your neighborhood and find out the true character, and there you can find out. So I tell people in government who I know, work with your community. Those who are voluntarily committing their time to developing the community, they are the people you need to work with. And those are the people who need to sift the values. And then the churches are not doing enough. The mosque is not doing enough.
We have You wanted to, okay. So I feel like we're in a quagmire right now because the politicians we have are not leaders. And 2023 is around the corner. I'm afraid because most of the people that these politicians rely on are the people who are not elites. The what do you call them on the streets? The grassroots, I don't want to use the word hoodlums, but they are the young men out there who are not educated, who actually come out en masse to cast their votes. The elites are a bit afraid. We don't want shooting and all that. How do we begin to get them to understand the sort of leadership that will take Nigeria forward and not just voting because you have been giving some guns, you've been giving money, you've been giving noodles and all that? How do we reach those people? Because they are the main people who would push these ones forward.
Very interesting question, and I would disclose all my interests.
I'm sure you didn't vote either at the last elections.
Oh, I did.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to ask you if you had your PVC.
Oh, we don't.
I was coming to that. Oh, I did. And I went beyond just voting. Okay. So the way I campaign is I go from door to door in my little community.
Okay. Let me let you
and
answer
if I could provoke some... And in my office, I took a poll in my office. I don't know if some of my colleagues are watching. And I asked them, there's it's a law office, so there's exciting debates. Sometimes it gets very severe and intense. And I said, everybody stop. This was the last election. Those who were voting for Jonathan Goodluck, those who are voting, and it became so polarized, of course, along racial lines, along tribal lines. Yeah. And I said, everybody stop. How many of you have a PVC?
I know.
We're about 23 of us, only 5. How many of you are going to vote? Only 3.
Yeah.
Wow. Of that 3, only 2 were voting for the present government. What did that tell you? The point you just raised.
Yes.
First, it depends on all of us. We first have to get our votes. Then secondly, those of us who are educated and those of us who are sufficiently exposed and hopefully have some level of integrity should educate those who do not know. Truth of the matter is democracy is difficult in Nigeria. Because I've gone on the streets.
Expensive.
Very expensive. And that is because most of those who vote do not have the material to evaluate who they should be voting for.
I have to pause you for a second because I have made this argument. Maybe I've not articulated it properly. But I somehow feel that democracy is not our own solution to the problem. Do you think we as Africans are prepared,
or Nigerians,
let me say,
for
democracy, or do we revert to some kind of different system of government at least for some period?
So, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. Yes. What have you done in the last elections beyond voting?
What we do every day.
Every day we speak about it.
So we need to start holding ourselves accountable. When I am, well, not when I'm available. I never travel abroad during elections. Not only do I vote, I persuade a lot of people to vote. And I stay with the vote and I see it counted. If votes don't count, politicians will not buy them. So they do count. And so democracy can work if those of us who are sufficiently exposed play our parts. I don't think any of you have ever influenced anybody.
Which way I'm going, I do that.
So great. So we have something in common.
I wait for it. I take my time. But there's a point where you've reached now, buying of the votes.
Yes.
Funnily, it's not the hoodlums who sell votes. And most of the hoodlums you think are not educated are very much educated beyond senior secondary school. But you see people, when it comes to elections, the discussions just water down to what he do for me.
Correct.
What if he do for me?
Personal interest.
Shebi is the one, the other time, he helped one person, I know, he sent him to school. How do we convince people that, beyond all of this, there's this common development that if you have it, he doesn't have to do for you. All of us will just, and then we can then question the right way. It's not one person doing. How do we convince them that at that moment, the pedigree of the person, even the pedigree of the ancestors, beyond the fathers, matter extremely beyond what they can do? So
let me break that down. Politicians are interested in the next election. Leaders are interested in the next generation. Therefore, this question you ask goes back to all of us. The truth of the matter is that the true leader is not a politician. And if you want integrity from him, he's not going to buy or sell votes. How do you get that man to be a leader and to be leading in a political setting if he's not going to compromise his integrity? He has to depend on people like you and us who know the right thing, and then we go and campaign. And we are competing with those who are giving money. I'll give you a typical example of what happened in Lekki. We were voting in Lagos. Fashola was not known.
Yes, it wasn't.
He wasn't known. And he asked me 3 questions when I tried to dissuade him from voting. He said, Osaro, who's your local government chairman? I said, I don't know. Who's sitting in the Senate? I said, I don't know. He said, what of the House of Reps? I said, I don't know. He said, you are more of the joker than I am.
Whoa.
You don't even know the people who are representing you, and you are asking me not to partake. So I went out to talk to my neighbors, as I would normally do. Then I went out to talk to the Okada people. But because I'm very influential in that community, the Okada people said to me, oh, I should get some money. I said, me give you money to vote? Never. The next day, I do a lot of running. I'm going to talk about my marathon before we finish. Okay. And the next day I'm running and they call me and say, Oga, please forget what we said yesterday. Who you want make we vote for? Most of them don't have any interest. Who you want make we vote for? I say, okay, I will tell you, this is who you should vote for. And on the day of the election, I saw a lot of, mishaps and a lot of, and I went around and said, Oga, go house. We they pretend. People give us money, we they pretend, say the money they shack us. You go win the election, all of us are voting for you. And that's exactly what happened. Oh. Now, there are many more people who will commit their time like that. You probably would not. And those people who are committing their time, I could have told them to vote for whoever I wanted. So it really rests on us, the so-called middle class and elites. We have failed. So when we have one of us who says, I'm interested in politics, he's support the person.
There's also the important part of the conversations that this elite, this middle class have amongst themselves, because they're the ones who start the narratives that we're talking about earlier. So I'm talking to the less educated person, and the person is listening and thinking, okay, she knows better, I think I trust her. But when I'm talking to the people, I'm saying, don't tell me anything. Do you know I've been to London? I've been to America. And they are going on and on.
Let me just intervene.
The ones causing the problems.
But I had won the confidence of my people. I use that word in politics because I joined them with the gutters. I helped them to get their licenses. So I didn't go to them a month or 2 months, 3 months before election. And no, they will not believe you. They trusted me. Yeah. My younger brother is in Benin. He does the same. They trust him because we're working with you all throughout the year. I'm a member of the community. So you know me.
Let me jump in.
Yes. So talking about the middle class and the elite and e-registration for our PVCs going forward. Recently INEC released the numbers of young first-time registrants. There were such a huge number in such a small time, and we hear the conversations they have in places like America, where they're saying there's voter apathy, but when you have people involved electronically, you have that group of people participating more in politics because they can do it now from the convenience of their homes. Do you think that will make a difference in Nigeria?
Certainly, because many more people who are informed and misinformed will vote. So it will make a difference. Is it a positive difference? Generally, I would think so, but we shouldn't think there's a panacea to the entire problem. The reason is this. There's so much falsehood on social media. Yeah. And I'm one of the few who say, look, try and restrict it. Because you see, how do you tell what is the truth, especially when you're not on ground? I have seen things happening. I travel by road a lot. I don't travel by any escorts. I travel with my driver undercover. So I travel from Benin to Lagos. I travel from Benin to Abuja. I travel from Abuja to Kaduna. Wow. My poor mother is praying and crying.
Like to sit down then?
Because I don't use any escorts. And that's deliberate because I want to see what's happening on the streets. Now, going back to your question, so you have people who are sitting in America, don't really understand what is going on here. They only understand it from social media. Sometimes they call you and tell you there's a bomb at the airport. I say, no, I'm sitting at the airport right now. There's no bomb.
Click the share button.
So I think it's with that misinformation, if we don't manage it, then you have people voting.
I have a few seconds. Let me let you talk about your marathon.
Oh, great.
You're running.
I run the marathon because I'm interested in the administration of justice, which is what obviously endears me to the vice president. I am running 42 kilometers.
Wow.
And I do that as a sacrifice to say that we must do something with the administration of justice. Look, we've all failed if you're lawyers. If it takes 3 years to resolve any disputes, it's a problem. But I think one of the greatest problems the non-lawyers would like me to speak about is that we as lawyers see rules very narrowly, see law very narrowly,
Yes.
as only the rules to resolve disputes. Law must be seen as a set of values upon which society is predicated. So if you have a lawyer who propagates a bit of integrity, it's a big problem because we should be the custodians of integrity.
Allow me to clarify.
So this for lawyers?
So,
No, not for
just
lawyers.
drop
It's for everyone. I'm just saying that
Okay, we have
we're
to run.
failed. That's why I'm running.
okay,
Okay.
all right, fantastic. Congratulations, and
Thank you, sir.
well
Well
done to
done.
that, and we'll look out for it
Thank
very
you
soon.
very
much. Are you going to run?
When?
Well, we were supposed to run the 2nd of October. Fortunately, the organizers put it for, in which I was running. Fortunately, a few people are going to join me, the vice president, everyone is joining, but unfortunately not.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, sir.
That's all we can take. We'll be speaking with one of the partners of Practitioner and Grace, Mr. Osaro Eghobamiem. Thank you very much, sir. SAN. That was very important. SAN. The title. Imagine that.
The leader without a title. So
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
matter.
All right. See you tomorrow. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.